All right, welcome everybody to this Thursday night or morning or afternoon, wherever you are, live stream. And I have a special guest. All right, welcome everybody to this Thursday night or more. So, oops, I had the sound from my computer on, and I hope it didn't go around. I'll mute it. Just a minute, some technical things. I mute this one there, and now I can have the sound on here. All right, let's see where you are from. There are 34 people already here. We have Ruth from Germany. Hello there. And we have Ken from Cheshire in UK. We have David Lewis from Norfolk, Tim New in Northwold, Manchester, UK, John, Wisconsin, US, Bob, Gulf Coast, Australia. Well, it's nice to have someone from Australia. Usually the times that I do these live streams are a bit odd for Australians, but welcome very much. And Dave Nelson from Oregon, and Hossein from Kuwait, John from Ottawa. So we have people all over the world. This is really exciting. Welcome everybody, and let's bring Espen right in, and let's get straight into the business. How you doing, Espen? Welcome to the live stream.
Am I on mute still? There we go.
Yeah, not anymore. Sorry, my bad.
Not a problem. Hi, I'm very good, thanks. How are you?
I'm fine, thanks. You said that when we discussed before the stream that you have been doing some photographing today. How did it go?
Not that well. I was out. I have a lock right on my doorstep, so I'm very lucky. And there's been some great crested grebes on it, a few other duck species that I try to photograph every now and then when we get the wind is still and get a little bit of a sunrise every now and then. And I went out early and lie down, used a little camo net in front, but unfortunately, the one time that a grebe kind of came close to me, it just dove under last second and then just passed me and popped right back up after. So really? Not successful this time, but that's
yeah. But usually that's how photography is, and I think I've said many times in my videos that sometimes just don't get the images, but the act of making those images, I think at least I like that. Just the process of making photographs, even though you might not be so successful every time, but once you are, then that's kind of like a top or a bonus for the day or the photo shoot.
Absolutely. I think that as well. That's one of the things I like about wildlife photography or just nature photography in general, is that I tend to have a good day when I'm out anyways, because I'm out in nature, I'm enjoying it. So it's usually have a good time, even if I don't come back with a good image.
That's really, really good. But I have a question. How did you start up with photography? What brought you in?
Back at university, I was studying wildlife biology and conservation, and during probably 2009, we were on a field or this summer we went the end of it where you do your thesis and research, and that we went to South Africa. So I figured I need a good camera for that to document the animals and things that we see there. So got myself a Canon 1000D, and I think I had a 70-300 lens with it or something like that. So it was basically just that. I wanted to document the animals that I was seeing, because it went hand in hand with me going out into the field. But it took a few years back after that before I really got into it. I think for many years it was the kind of thing that I would dip back into probably every summer or every holiday or something like that. Whenever you want something, or I did something exciting, I brought it back out. So it took probably 2016, 15 or something like that. It's probably when I properly started shooting, and had the bug ever since.
Oh, that sounds interesting. So you haven't actually been shooting that long?
No, not at all.
5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But it's what's really great. When I was just telling Espen that how I found his channel. It was actually, I found him through YouTube, so that I was watching the analytics in YouTube and checking out what other channels my viewers are watching, and his channel came up. So if you haven't checked out his channel yet, be sure to do that after this live stream. There's a lot of good stuff about bird photography, and of course about Olympus, which we will get into in a second. And it's sometimes YouTube algorithm is kind of funny. It doesn't suggest the right channels, but I'm glad that I found his channel because it's been very useful to me also. And you have been shooting with Olympus how many years or months?
This is 1 year and a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was the reason that you wanted to switch?
I probably had a Canon 7D and 100-400 at the time. And I'd been shooting for a couple of years then. I was getting really into my wildlife photography. And I could see that, my next logical step or where I wanted to go then would be, a 500 prime, f4. And they're very expensive and also very, very heavy. And right before I made the switch as well, I was traveling full time. So you probably know yourself or everybody does, when you travel with photography gear, it's a bit of a nightmare. So the portability of it, and also just the freedom it looked like people had when they went out shooting with, just a small camera and the 300 f4 just looked really appealing to me. But it was probably, seeing that other photographers that I looked up to and were really good, like we were just mentioning Jari Peltomäki there, and there's a few other Olympus visionaries who are, Tesney Ward and Andy Roos, and just loads of people that are producing really quality wildlife photography. So that was just, I'm just going to go for it. I did one of these where they let you have it for a week or something like that, or a couple of weeks, and tried it out. And I was like, this suits me perfectly. And also because I do the vlogs and I go out and I film a lot at the same time, it's really tricky when you start adding on all the different gear that you need to take with you into the field. So I really wanted something like a compact system that I can easily switch. I can film the footage and, have a small vlogging camera or something like that on the side and get everything I need quite simple. Because I do like to, especially not now, we're still kind of in lockdown here, so I don't really drive around for photography. It's more walking or cycling or something like that. So I really enjoy being quite lightweight and just taking everything with me as I go.
That's usually what has happened, that people are watching or seeing the cameras and seeing the good results, and then the size, and of course the prices are a bit less than if you need, let's say, like a 300 millimeter f4 lenses. Of course, it's a lot of money, but it's not as close to what like a 500 millimeter with the same aperture cost. Those are and talking about the weight and size, and that's exactly the same reason that I switched in 2014, I think it was, because of the size of the and then they started to getting really good pro grade lenses at the time too. So there was a good variety of different glass, because that's usually when you're switching system, it's not the camera body, but the amount of lenses you need, and that's usually builds up. And what is the gear that you use mostly now?
Mostly now I use EM1X. When I did the switch, I didn't have, I sold all my gear and I got myself an EM Mark II and the 300 with an extender 1.4. So I thought that will get me covered for a while. And then I got myself an EM1X after that. At the moment, my 300 has actually been in for repairs. I bought it used, and I had a bit of issues with it over winter. It was something on the inside was kind of coming up on the front element. And it's been in for ages. It wasn't Olympus's fault. It was because of Brexit. Everything got stuck in shipments somewhere, and they finally got it in. And I'm getting it back next week. But
great!
That meant that I got myself the 40-150 as well. So I have that 40-150 2.8. So I kind of use the extender on that, but it gives you okay reach. But I do miss my 300, so I can't wait to get it back.
I bet. Did you have a chance to test the 150-400?
No, I really, really want to. You tested it, haven't you?
I hope you had. It's a wonderful lens. I had it for 2 hours in a pouring rain. So I
saw that. Yeah, I saw the video.
Oh, you have seen that. It was marvelous lens, but I don't need that. But of course, would be nice to have, but I don't actually need it. I don't do that much that type of photography that I would actually need it. But yeah, it was beautiful lens, but it's a lot of money. So if you don't really need it, then I don't, or like me, that I don't really justify why would I get it.
Yeah. I see. There's definitely people that that I'm aware of that are getting it now, and I'm just getting more and more jealous every time somebody says they're getting it. So I'm probably starting to save up quite soon. Definitely.
Yeah. Well, it is a good lens for the stuff that you do. So hope you can find the money somehow, so you can get it, because it is a wonderful lens.
Yeah.
And there was one thing. It was the video that we were talking about your settings in bird photography, and I think there was one marvelous thing was about the AF limiter. And the people who haven't seen that video, could you explain us how you use it so that it won't stuck in the background? Because I think that was genius, and I've used it sometimes, but never did I think that you could actually use it that way. I think it was just brilliant.
Thank you very much. Yeah, that was because on the 300 you can set the settings so you can use different kind of limits, but they don't have a maximum limit. It's just set to infinity. So, but in the camera you can go in and AF limiter, and you can set how far you want it to focus. So I found it really useful for birds in flight, because very often your background is a little bit busy, even if it's far away. And it's easy for the autofocus system to just jump in the background every now and then. So then setting your AF limiter to a little bit before that background. So doing an estimate. Somebody commented on that video, actually. They had a very good idea as well. It was two people that mentioned that they use the because there's a way of setting, what is that? The pre-focus distance. Is that what it's called? Yeah.
Pre-MF.
Using that to check your background, because you can go into info when you're in that, and you can half press the shutter button, and it will measure the background for you. And they said it wasn't completely accurate all the time, but at least that could give you a rough idea if you don't know how far away your background is, and then set that limiter. And that when you have that limiter on, I have it set up for a button, so it's really quick to put it on. And then, it basically means that you won't have that happen so much where the focus point just jumps to the background. So it sticks to the birds a lot more. It's really useful. And I was using it photographing birds on branches as well the other day. And I would use the lens limiter on this before, but I actually found it even better with this, because you can be quite specific. If I'm photographing a small bird on a small branch, and I'm 2-3 meters away, I can set that AF limiter to 4 or 5 meters.
Yeah.
And it really helps, because those, the tiny branches is so easy to lose focus on them. So I use it for both that, for short distances and further away. So
yeah, so it works if you know if there is a branch where that the birds are going to land, then you can just kind of measure it and then set the limiters to
exactly
1 meter, apart. Yeah. So it will be
even if I'm just standing by a tree or a shrub, and I have there's loads of different branches there, but my background is much further away than just setting it just beyond. So it really helps for me anyways.
Yeah, that is. Does it affect also the AF speed? So it's kind of also faster, isn't it? Because it doesn't have to figure out the whole distance.
Absolutely, yeah. When it does start to chase a little bit, it has a very small area that it actually has to look for your focus point. So it's a much faster, definitely.
Yeah. What about, there are a couple of questions, and we will have a proper Q&A, but we can start already, because there are some questions. And now there is a question from Steve G. Hello, Espen and Peter. Do you find any quality degradation with the 2.0 teleconverter? I'm finding a little when I use it with my 300 millimeter. How do you see that? Do you have the MC20?
Excuse me. I don't have the 20. No, I got the 1.4. I think. Excuse me. I do find that there is a little bit, but not very much. It can be a little bit softer on the eyes around the bird when I'm using that, but really not much. I used to use the 1.4 Canon with the 100-400. I know that it's maybe not a fair comparison because it's a prime and that, but I would say that the results I'm having with this are significantly better than what I used to get with that. So it's not a tiny bit, but not much. Yeah. How about yourself? Do you find, have you used it?
Yeah, I don't have the 300 millimeter. I do have the MC20, and I've used it with my 40 to 150 millimeter f2.8, and there is a little, it's not as good, the image quality with the extender, and the AF is a bit slower, but for my work or use, I don't see this as a problem at all. But it's not as sharp, of course, because there's more glass between there, and the light is bending a bit differently inside the camera, so there is a bit different. But I wouldn't say that it is that much that I would need to get, let's say, like the 300 millimeter because of that. I'm totally happy with that.
I looked back at some of my images from last year, and I came across some, and it's not like I knew instantly that I'd taken them with the 1.4. It looked nice and sharp to me. It was only when I looked at the info afterwards I saw that, I actually used the 1.4 on it. So it was more than good enough.
If you can't see it when you see your images, then who cares? Nobody else can either. And we also have to remember that it's not a wise thing to look at images at 400% and stick your nose into the print or the screen. Of course, there will be defects or bad image quality if you make it a really big magnification. I usually look at 100%, and if it looks good, then it's good enough for me. And I know some people do 200%, but I tend to use 100. I've always done that. It's got nothing to do with the camera that I'm using.
Yeah, I do the same. I think that's plenty to see.
Yeah, and then there's one question about my experience, 300 millimeter plus two-time extender needs stable hands. Even body IBIS helps, and semi-fast shutter speed to keep sharp, but not that bad. Mm-hmm. And do you take advantages of the IBIS quite a lot?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, because it is, one of the drawbacks, with Micro Four Thirds is that, you can't get as good like ISO quality as you could with the full frame. So the image stabilization comes into my shooting a lot, and I go for very often very low shutter speeds. Like I'll often photograph small birds if they're on a branch, if I need it, if I feel like like I've taken a couple of safety shots, maybe at a higher ISO at a higher shutter speed, I'll bump it right down to 50th of a second, and much lower than that as well. I think the lowest I've gone is a 10th of a second or 13th of a second, and that's very intentional because I've been photographing a dipper on a stream, and I want to get that water kind of creamy looking, and then and just firing off a couple of extra shots, and you get some sharp in there. So yeah.
Yeah, and it's usually actually the shutter speeds that you need for flying birds and especially small birds is actually quite fast. That's what I found out when I started practicing. My first few shots were like, oh, whoops, these are really fast.
Yeah. And I saw that you had I liked on your Instagram, you had a pro capture of a bird. I liked your caption there. It's this like, you're definitely not a birder, because it was just a bird. And, but it is
no idea what those birds are.
It's a very nondescript bird anyways, but that was you were using the pro capture, weren't you? And you got that.
Yeah.
That you must have gone quite fast.
Do you use that a lot?
I do. Yeah. Well, it's been situations where I use it a lot more, and now coming into springtime, I'll be photographing more birds. I'll pick up gray spotted woodpeckers here soon again, and I used it quite a bit for that last year. Capturing them, I was setting up in a hide, and seeing their main flight path coming in and out of the nesting hole because they were feeding their young. So basically trying to capture them in flight as they come out. As they come out is easier, and it's such it's an amazing feature, and I really should take advantage of it more. So that's really something I want to use more this year, and really double down on it, because it's such a crazy feature that you need to take advantage when not everybody has it. You can create something quite unique with it, I think.
Oh yeah, it is. It is a unique feature, and what I like about it is I usually of course the high speed where you have up to 60 frames per second, but then you don't have the AF, but the lower one you also have the AF with it, so which is a bit better. I think it's 30 frames per second maximum, or is it a bit less?
I think it's 18. I think.
Oh, it's 18. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, it is. It is 18. Yeah. That's plenty usually. But for me, for example, if I would want to have a photograph of a bird like landing or just starting to fly, I would miss it without Pro Capture. No way would I be fast enough. Usually when I press the shutter, you don't have the bird anymore, or it's just the tail feather you can see in the end. So
it's amazing. Yeah, I really have to gotta respect the early photographers, especially and in film days as well, that were spending the time out and doing that. At least when we have digital, you can take many shots, but still, it's difficult. Very difficult. I use the for a lot of situations, I will use the high more. I know that 18 frames per second is definitely plenty to freeze the action, but if you kind of roughly know their flight path, getting 60 frames per second is absolutely amazing, because you get every small step of the wings, and it makes a big difference, because some positions of the wings will just look so much better. So the 60 frames per second, you can really get some absolutely amazing shots. But it is, you got to get that focus right, and
but that's where it comes to, when you know the birds, you know where they are going. Because I remember when I was in the Eagle Hide about a year ago with Jari Peltomäki, I remember, because he was like whispering me that now the bird is doing that and it's going to go that way, so beware. And I was just like, all right. And it did. He knew exactly what the birds were doing. And that's something that we have to remember, that it's not going to make you a bird photographer if you get the EM1X and 300 millimeter. You need to know the birds. And even if you're not used to using a long telephoto lens, finding the bird in the sky with the 300 millimeter is not easy.
No, definitely not. It takes some practice getting into that. And it helps kind of coming from a birding background, because you're used to looking through binoculars and, just instantly picking up your bins and finding the bird. It really helps. Yeah.
And then I don't know if you made the video about the ibis and flying birds. Do you use the what do you call it, the way that it's only stabilizing this way, and so that, or you do use it on auto?
I tend to use it so that I tend to use it so it only stabilizes kind of up and down, so that you don't get stabilization in that. Mostly, I mean, some people were asking in the comments there, I think, like, why didn't I just leave it in auto? And I guess it's just a little bit paranoia. Like, if there is a setting for that, then for just using it like it's meant to be used, then I will go for that. And it's probably a little bit to do with like less computer, whatever, like it takes less power to do it or to figure it out. So there might be more power to focus or something else. I don't know. So I will switch it if I remember it. I'll switch it.
Yeah, the logic makes sense, because why is it there if it's not?
Or
exactly. Something, and casual shooting auto is totally fine. But I can understand if we do a lot of panning, then why not just leave it?
It worked really well. I was shooting a video for doing just the panning and doing like slow shutter speeds and that. And I think that I've had a lot more success with that now. I did a combination of using a bit of the bird focusing and without, just the grid, and it picks up the bird really, really quickly and really fast. So that's good.
And you also on your settings video, you were talking about the AF point, that you tend to use the one that has 5, and then you had, was it that you have the 3x3, if I remember correctly?
5x5 seemed to work really well for me. And obviously it depends on the size of the bird, how big it is in your frame and what your background is. If you get a busy background, you're better off probably going down to something like 1 and then 4 around or something. But I found that when my background was far away, using the AF limiter, 5x5 seemed to do good for me. The birds AI I've had various results with it. Some people seem to get on great with it. I've been chatting a bit to, is it Thomas Stir? He's got a blog, a nice blog on Micro Four Thirds, and he was saying he gets quite good results with it. So I think it's a bit, people have different experiences, but yeah, I still have it as one of my presets on the EM1X. I can kind of quickly switch to it as, you know, birds in flight, and I use that so that I can kind of, there are situations, I think, especially when the bird is a lot closer to you, it can work really well, and it can actually find, you know, the head and the eye as well. So
Yeah,
it's definitely use for it.
Yeah, that's what I found out. That was made my life a lot easier when I was doing a review on that. I could get a lot better results with the bird AF because it can find, especially if a bird is not like the head is not towards the camera, it may be a bit side. It could have taken the tip of the wing, but now it actually found the head, which is of course most or more something that I mostly want, that it is the eye that is sharp and not the tip of the wing.
Mm.
But of course, that depends on the photograph, but usually the eyes need to be sharp.
Mm.
Let's see what we have, some questions here. There was one that was really interesting, was this about the workshops. How far have you got with regard to doing workshops?
Oh,
I know
yeah.
that one-on-one sessions, but are you doing workshops?
No, I haven't. I haven't started them yet, but I most likely will in the near future. I was thinking about starting them last year, but we've been in and out of lockdown in the UK for a long time now.
Yeah,
so,
I don't think it's a good time to start that, unfortunately.
No. So I'll probably wait at least and see where we're moving kind of towards the end of another lockdown now, slowly releasing stuff. So I'll see how things go this year, but it is on the agenda. So
sounds good.
If not this summer, then hopefully next come autumn or winter, then I might put on a couple. Yeah,
that sounds good. And let's see, there was another one that I'm scrolling back a bit. There was one question that I kind of lost, is that would you pick Olympus now if you started doing photography now? Was the question. You would?
I would. Yeah.
Here it is. Actually, I found it. Would you still pick Ollie if you were starting today, Espen? Yeah, that was the question. You would, yeah.
I think it's a great starting system as well, because you don't, like we said earlier, you don't have to spend a fortune for very good gear. So absolutely, yeah. And there's a lot of features with it as well that it's just makes it easier. So.
That's true. There's one question that I actually was supposed to ask earlier. That are there any things that you would like to be better
with Olympus
in your EM1X? Is there something that you're missing, and I'm not saying that you have to come up with some special super features, but is there anything that holds you back or would like to have something differently?
I mean, I would say the ISO performance. Everybody's going to say that, though. No matter what gear you have, you always wish it could perform better at low light. I think. I think that is the main thing. And I think that's the main thing for a lot of people's concern about switching to Olympus as well, which I totally understand. Like if you really want that. You want that, push it up to 12,000 ISO and higher, then you're not going to get those kind of great results. I think the highest I've used is 6,400, and using Topaz denoise cleaned it up very nicely. But I try not to push it that hard. And somebody was asking here as well about the difference between Stefan. Difference between the EM1 Mark II and the EM1X. That was when it comes to the autofocus. I was going to say about that. The ISO is a bit better on the EM1X. But for the autofocus, I can't say that I've tried to compare the two that much. Have you ever compared the two?
Actually, I have. The X is better. The AF is not bad with the EM1 Mark II, but it's got better with the Mark III and the X. There is a bit better algorithm, and they had after the firmware, it got a bit closer, but it's still not as good. But I use still EM1 Mark II, and I don't see in what I do, no problem at all. So There isn't much of a difference, but it is better. And if I was doing wildlife, I would get the X. It's best for that by far.
Yeah. I was going to say about the this wasn't exactly the EM1X, but when I was setting up my EM1 Mark II there to film, it doesn't go into have you had this problem? I think other people have had it as well. That you can't put auto ISO when you're in full manual filming. Have you had that?
Yeah.
Or do you not?
Yeah, if you're doing video, yes, you cannot do that.
Yeah.
It's strange. There are some strange things with like the USB and HDMI. If you put something in, then it blocks the other port, and I think there are some things that are a bit odd. How did you find the menus system when you first picked it up? Because that's something that a lot of people say, that, like I've always said also, that it's a bit messy.
Yeah, it's a steep learning curve. I've been looking up videos from yourself. It's been very helpful. Other people as well that's had Olympus, and just slowly but surely kind of coming to grips with it, figuring out where things are, writing stuff down to kind of remember. Because if you make a switch and then afterwards you don't really remember, maybe not even what you did or where you did it. But starting to make more and more sense for sure the more I do it. And doing the videos that I did recently about trying to explain it to other people is really useful, actually, because it just refreshes my mind, and I actually learn stuff from doing it. And people's comments as well, give me stuff back that I didn't know or I didn't think about. So it's a really great way to learn it.
That's true. I've learned a lot of things, because when you start figuring out and you have to test different things with the camera when you're doing videos, and then hey, wait a minute, I can do this. I never knew about this. And sometimes, like you said, there are in comments, there are some, have you tried this? And they're like, well, that's interesting. Never had. And there's something really, really cool. And then there was one question. Have you ever used the red dot target thing?
No, I haven't.
You haven't, yeah.
No,
that's really helpful. I have it. I bought it when it was really, really on a big sale a couple of years ago, and it helps. It helps. But the only problem is that you need to, I don't have a camera, but you need to have a camera like this, and you need to use the LCD. You can't use which makes it a bit odd, because when you're having your camera like this, and it's a bit odd, but it helps. It helps.
That could work really well for. Could you be able to use that for video? Because for video is one of the things where I'm trying to get more into manual focus now, because it's not amazing at automatic focus, or I'm not amazing at it anyway. So for my videos, I will very often switch to manual. But if it can do that, then I'm quite interested in maybe trying that out.
Yeah, for that, it could probably be if you're, let's say that you are filming the birds in flight, and then it could be easier for that, or might help. Let's see, what else do we have? There's one question about the 300. Buying used, I can get the EM1 Mark II and EM5 Mark III at the same price. I plan to pair it with the 300 mm f4. And I do wonder, is there a reason to go for one of these over the other?
If you like a small camera, then Olympus actually lent me the EM5 Mark III, and I used it for vlogging, and I tried it for wildlife photography, and I actually really liked it. It was surprisingly good. I had good quality as well for pushing up the ISO a bit. It's tiny though. I was using it on the 100-400, which they lent me as well, and it's like this tiny little thing you put on. It's still not the biggest lens, but it looks crazy big. I wouldn't be comfortable saying one over the other, because there might be some features of the M5 Mark III that don't do certain things that the EM1 Mark II do. Do you know that?
There aren't very big differences on those. If I would pick, if the price was same and I had the 300 or about to getting it, I would get the EM1 Mark II, because it has a lot better grip and hold when you have a bigger lens.
Yeah, I was noticing that my finger kind of just falls beneath it. So it's a bit small and fiddly to.
Yeah, it is for that. Otherwise, I like the EM5 Mark III for other stuff, but with big lenses, I think it's a bit too small lens at least for my hand. But if there is a possibility to test how it feels, then I think that would help, because you never know. You might want to get it. And if you get the EM5 Mark III, then you might need the extra grip that there is for that.
Yeah.
So that could be another option too. Otherwise, I don't think. I think the weather sealing is about the same, so there's no thing about that either. Let's see, there it is, and let's see what else. What about that? You tested the 100 to 400 millimeter lens. How did you find it?
I found it good, very versatile, and I can reach quite far. Coming from, I mentioned this in my video where I kind of compared it a little bit to the 300, which again might not be the fairest comparison, but the 300 is slightly faster, it is slightly sharper. But the 100/400 just gives you that versatility, and you can zoom back a bit, which I often quite like in my bird photography. I think that the one thing about the 100/400, which I'm really enjoying now with the 40/150, is that I can zoom even further back, because sometimes you want to get even more in the picture, and at 100, 200 equivalent, you're actually quite far in already. So it's, for anybody thinking about it, it depends how you use it. But I really liked it, and the reach of it is just amazing. And just walking around with that lens and one camera and just kind of seeing what comes up. It's because you don't have to, very often for small birds, if you get a little bit too close and you get kind of within their circle of fear, then, they're gone, so, but very often you can hang back a little bit with that lens and wait, and, you would very often get close enough. So it's a good one.
Yeah, I tested it also when it was launched, and I found it very nice lens. And only downside is that the IBIS isn't the same Sync IS than the other Pro lenses.
Yes.
Or actually, it's not a Pro lens, but I think that was something that they should have maybe done a bit differently. But because you really need a good stabilizing when you have a really long lens, that's actually like 800 millimeters equivalent the field of view, and you have, so it's a long lens.
Yeah, that's very true as well. You get up to what is a 6.3 there as well, or then you need a bit more. You need more light as well. So yeah.
Then there is an interesting question about, let's see, about the shutter. How do you use the silent shutter or the electronic shutter?
I'm always in silent. That is electronic, right? Am I getting?
Yeah, electronic and silent.
I'm always in silent. The only time I take it off is if I'm shooting something completely different and I walk around, like maybe just portrait or of people or something like that. I like having just a single. I like the sound, but always in silent, and you just get used to that, and you never scare the wildlife away because of that.
Yeah, that's the good thing about it.
Yeah.
Even though it's quite strange when there's no sound, we're so used to having the clicking sound when you're making images, and that's a bit strange, but it is better.
Strange.
Yeah, but you don't have any problems with rolling shutter or anything like that.
No, I don't. I haven't. No,
yeah, that's good, because I think they can fix it quite well. It's not that big of an issue with Olympus cameras, so that's good. Yeah, what about, then there is a question which is more for a landscape, but how do you find the dynamic range? Is that challenging for you?
I mean, yeah, a little bit. I guess, you can't, I guess sometimes there is, like, going from, very dark to very bright. And I've actually set up some presets now to kind of try to experiment a little bit with taking several frames, bracketing.
Oh, okay.
Obviously, it's not something I need most of the time because of shooting and go light and stuff. But it's something that I'm experimenting with just to see if I can if I can do anything there. But I mean, most of the time, no, it's not a big issue. No. Are you finding that? Do you shoot a lot of landscape or?
No, not usually. Sometimes I do HDR, so like take the like 3 different exposures of the same same spot. But most cases, I think it's plenty of dynamic range. Sometimes when it's really deep shadows and really bright highlights, then it might be a problem. But it's a problem for almost any camera. So that's just the way it is. And we have to say that I've been using film in a way, and like the slide films or what do you call it? Yeah, slides. They had dynamic range about 5 stops. So now I'm like, woohoo, we got 10, 12. That's a huge amount.
Yeah, I bet there's a difference.
Yeah. Let's see. There is someone is asking about. I have the M1 Mark, the first one and the 2, but with changes a little bit, I'm reluctant to invest further. The largest camera store in New Jersey, Philadelphia, has stopped stocking Olympus. Your thoughts? Well, that sounds bad. I really don't know that much how they or which stores are selling. Of course, when there is a shift in production and the company has been sold to another company, of course there might be some rearrangements also with the resellers if they don't. Let's say like I know there's been some what do you call this? The production has stopped for a little while and they can't produce enough lenses and cameras too. So of course there might be some things that then the retailers won't be selling them anymore. But sounds bad. But I think OMDS is promising, and I think there will be some interesting stuff coming up later this year. So I wouldn't be too afraid to invest in to the 100 and 400, because we have to remember that even though Olympus wouldn't make any cameras, that stuff is still very good for many years to come. So I wouldn't see that as a big problem. Yeah, and then did you test the Bird IA or AI with the 100 and 400 millimeter? Do you remember?
I'm trying to remember. I honestly, I had to go back. I would have to go back and check the video. I did a video when it first came out, just because I was so excited about getting it, downloading it. I ran outside and I did a vlog at the same time. But I honestly can't remember, because it was about the same time that I had the 100-400. So it's likely, but I can't remember if it was the 300 or that. Sorry, but you can check out my video on it.
Yeah, go check out his, and there's on the screen you have the link. Yeah, it's I might make some mistakes in spelling, but it's correct.
Not the easiest.
It is, but you can find Espen's channel. There's a lot of stuff about bird photography and wildlife photography. So go there for that. Yeah, let's see, what else do we have? Yeah, and then there's one question that I kind of asked, that these wishes for bird photography to OMD for the future. I kind of
mean like lenses or like cameras and stuff?
Lenses, cameras, or anything. Do you have, like, I all kind of like asked that, are there any things that you wish?
I mean, for myself, I just want the 150-400. That's all I want.
All right,
I'll be happy.
That
is. Other than that, I'm quite happy with what I have right now, but that is high on the wish list. Yeah. I would like to see updates on the bird tracking, if that's on the agenda. I think it could be improved.
Yeah, most likely that's what they said, that they're working on. The AI is something that the subject recognition thing is something that they're really working on, and I'm glad that they got the birds, because they had the airplanes, trains, and cars and helmets and stuff like that, which was a good start, or someone said it is not a good start, but I think it was an interesting and good start, and you have to start somewhere, and now they've done the birds, and maybe they improving that, and I think that is something that they should also do, because that's where those cameras are really good, because of the size and portability and everything. So that's birds in flight, and you can kind of carry the 300 and even the 140 to like this, and then just fire away. You don't need to put the stuff on the tripod and wait for the birds, but you can just kind of walk around and and fire away. Oops, what was that? No. drop something from my table. All right, let's see what we have here. Are there any more questions that we have? Let's see. And then there is this. And what's your take on using flash with bird photography? Have you ever used them?
I've never done it. No. It's something that I might get into. I see people with, showing some good results with that, and I can see the benefit of it to just, especially just underneath, giving that a little bit extra. So it's something I'll look into, but it's going to be a learning curve. I've, like we said earlier, I haven't been shooting for a really long time, and flash isn't really something I've experimented with. So but it'd be interesting to try it one day, for sure.
Yeah, that's. I know that Jari Peltomäki, he has this where he'll, or actually the Fin Nature, the place where they have the workshops and stuff. He has a kind of like an indoor hide that you can, it's part of the house. You just walk there, and he has some lights, some LED lights there that are really bright, and because up there it's dark, very dark during the winter times, and there's not too many hours of shooting time, so that's how he can manage to get more time to shoot. And there are some benefits because the colors, because bright lights, they make the colors really pop, and you can get really nice rim light in the back. So there is something, but it's, of course, if the flash comes straight from the camera or the same direction, then it's no good. But if you have it from the side, and then it's a bit of a different way of shooting, but something
definitely. It's also something I would want to look into a little bit more first as well. Like, I wouldn't want to use flash photography on birds if it was disturbing the birds in any way. And my gut feeling is that it probably doesn't during the day, but if you do it at night and they're using all their retinas and photons and that, and then you blast them with that light, I would imagine that's not very good for them. And I think there's a photographer, he's got a YouTube channel as well, down south in England, Simon Wantling, and he does quite a bit with owls, and he does, more the light setup. He doesn't like to blast them with a flash or anything like that. So I think that's can be a way to go as well, and kind of consider the wildlife as well first.
Yeah, that's true. Of course, you don't want to, you don't want the flash to be like very close to your eyes. So that's probably the same thing with the animals, even worse for them. And one question about your shooting style, actually, that came to mind. How much do you do the way that you sit and wait somewhere, or do you rather walk around and see what's happening? Which way, or both? Or what do you prefer?
It's funny that I haven't just made a video. I'm just editing it now on kind of my favorite way of shooting, and cool. I would say my favorite way is to walk around, or to get on my bike. I just like a small backpack and just kind of see what comes along. But you kind of have to be aware as well that most likely you're not going to get the best images that way, So a lot of time but you're kind of wrecking when you do that as well. You get ideas, you find habitat, you find places. Just when I did this, I found a great loch nearby, and I could, there was a little stream from it, so I could lie down, I could be just at eye level. So it's a place that I'll go back to. And, I was happy with some of the images I got on the day, but it's such a nice experience. Yeah, I do. Sorry.
Yeah, we should have put spoiler alert here now. But be sure to watch that video, because that's really interesting too. That's at least for me, usually it's interesting to see how people are doing their work and what are their approach, because you can be a bird photographer or wildlife photographer and do it in so many different ways. So that's why it's really interesting to see and find out how people find the thing to photograph, and it's really interesting. Looking forward to that video.
I do use a lot of hides as well, because I do work with a company called Tragopan who makes hides and camouflage. So it's and that's very often the way to get a better image. Once you figured out where to go, and then spending as much time you can there as possible. And they came up with some new gear, so 3D camo stuff, and I've never really, I haven't done much of that, because I can be quite fidgety and stuff, so I prefer sitting in a hide where I can move about and the animals don't see me. And I didn't actually think I was going to like sitting out in the open with the camo on, but it was actually really enjoyable because you can see a lot better when you're in a hide. Very often you got a compressed view and you're trying to look out and seeing what's going on. But here I was sitting in the clothes and just kind of slowly looking around, and animals would walk past me, come up, and not even know that I was there. So it's a different experience, and that part of the experience I love. It's I guess sitting and waiting for a long time can be tough at times. But you get better at these things. It's like a muscle you kind of use, and then you stretch the amount of time you can sit about doing nothing and just waiting for stuff to happen, for sure.
Yeah, actually, somebody mentioned that brand that you were talking about, that you were kind of like introducing that brand to him, and he bought everything. That's what he said on one of the comments earlier. And I was like, I didn't really realize what it was. That's why I didn't pick it up. But now I know what he meant, and that's cool. Good. That's cool. Let's see, what else do we have? And if you find any questions that you want to answer that I might have missed, just go ahead.
Well, we can jump ahead with this one here from Matthias, because that was kind of similar. How do you choose your place when you're using and building up a hide?
This one probably.
So I mean, usually with those kind of hides, you can erect them on the day. Sometimes I'll put them up in advance and leave it out there. So I'm not really building it, but and how do I choose the place? It all depends on the species. Right now, I have, like I mentioned, I have a lock next to me. This morning, I was out just with a camo blanket in front of me, and I was lying down on a mat. But that's only because I was on the side of the lock where there's just no room for a hide. But I prefer to put out a hide, and I'll put it up then in the morning. It depends what kind of photo I'm going for. So at this particular lock, I actually only have access to one side, mostly one side of the lock. So I'm mostly shooting there in the morning, and then I want to have the sun behind me. But sometimes you want to do the opposite. You want to set it up the complete opposite way and get the sun right in front of you if you want to go for slightly, a different, more moody kind of shot. Other than that, I'm really careful about the background first. Like I get on site and I often lie down or just look through the viewfinder to see what my background is going to be, because the last thing you want to do is set up a hide and spend loads of time there, only to realize that your background looks horrible, the light is in the wrong place, or even the animals don't come there. Studying the place where you're at, so you actually have a decent chance of getting the animals there. So if you're photographing deer or something like that, finding those paths that they use, finding where they very often there's a gap in a fence or something like that, and you'll see tracks. You'll see that's where they're going to go almost predictably. So if you spend time there, you'll get them. So then it's all about looking at the background and predicting where the light is going to be. And those things are easy. It's predicting the wildlife that's tough. But going out and spending time outside and looking for it and study it and reading up as well. I got tons of references books on wildlife, and I enjoy reading about, and understanding more about their behavior and ecology.
Yeah, that's what we're talking earlier, that it's one of the most important thing. It's same thing in every type of photography. It's people, sports, or birds. You need to know the stuff that you're photographing. That makes you a better, not the gear, which is always important. Of course, the gear helps you, but then there have been a couple of questions about you selling images, and if it's okay, I will show your gallery page, which I found it to be very, very nice and interesting way of doing it. Mm-hmm. And this is Espen's EspenHelland.com, and you have a gallery like this where you have a very nice way of kind of showing the image in an environment where you actually would hang it, and that's probably the wisest way of showing the images. And I think that was really, really a cool way. And so you kind of do your work is so that you sell prints. Is that your thing?
Basically, I've just set this up, and I've to be honest, I haven't sold loads of prints before, but every now and then I get asked and somebody wants one, so it's been on my agenda to-do list to just set up a website so that people can go buy when they want one, so I don't have to go through that or figure out everything, remember how I get the prints and stuff. So it's a smaller part of what I do, but it's definitely something I wanted to get done, since I do get questions about it. And every now and then people want one. So but I figured like that way of showing what it looks like, I think is a good way of showing what it looks like in people's homes.
Really cool way of showing, because that's probably the best way when people actually can realize that what it looks when they hang it on the wall, and they can find out, because usually if you see a photograph, they don't really understand what it actually looks like. And then you actually do, I'm looking at your website here, you do this contributor to Wildlife Photographic magazine. Is that a big part of your stuff?
It's the latest. I have contributed an article to them a couple of years ago, and this last year, the editor kind of contacted me and asked, because apparently he'd been watching my YouTube channel, so he was, proposed that maybe we set something up where we show videos, because it's a digital magazine, so you can show the videos in the magazine. So he had this idea for putting one of my videos in and then showing, the photos that I got on the day of the video, and those kind of related to it, and then writing up a bit more extra about it, like a bit more extra about the experience and what the video is about. So so I was super happy to give that a shot. It's a really good magazine, and I do have I don't know if there's a link there. There's a link on my Instagram. You can get 2 magazines for free, wildlife photography magazines. So it's an app, so you can there's a link in my profile on Instagram, and you can follow that and get 2 for free. No catch or anything. You just
you can see the Instagram handle right there in the stream. So it's instagram.com/Espen Helland. So there was one thing about also that you do teaching, and you have one-on-one lessons. What's that all about? Is that kind of like some thing to do with, of course, most likely wildlife? So what kind of consulting do you do, or teaching, or whatever you call that?
So I have a Patreon site as well, and on the Patreon site, if people sign up for a longer amount, it's usually a year or so, then I also give out a kind of a video, a critique of their portfolio, or wherever they share their images online. So that's been quite, people have found that really useful and really helpful. So I've been meaning to set up on the website as well a way to just get that as a one kind of a video of me just going over, critiquing your images, coming up with some tips and feedback for how to improve. So this is then the kind of step further. If you want to work one-on-one, we'll go through your images. We'll go through, it can be anything from setting up like how you go about scouting for wildlife, finding wildlife, and the approach that you can take for photographing it, to getting critiquing your images, and also a little bit for if people, there are a lot of people getting started with YouTube now, and a lot of people that do wildlife photography vlogs. So providing a bit of tips and guidance for the people who want to go down that route as well.
Oh, that's cool. That's really so. Go and check out Espen's website. There's lots of information. There's one thing that was also interesting is about that you work with tourism boards and then conservation organizations also. How big part of that is that? Because I know that you've studied wildlife in Scotland, so that must be a big part of the whole thing.
Yeah, it's something that I definitely want to do more of, especially the conservation part is something that I want to bring a bit more on my YouTube channel as well on board, and give more attention to causes that I care about. And there's a place here in Scotland who I've been talking a bit to, it's about rewilding. So they have a big area. It's called Trees for Life. So we've been talking a little bit back and forth, but obviously things as they are right now, we haven't really been able to go forwards with it. So before that, when I was traveling, I was in Penang in Malaysia, and we had these amazing dusky langurs, these monkeys come by our apartment, through the trees every day, up and down, and I was just fascinated by them. And we had a parking garage over 3 levels. And very often in wildlife photography, you want to get to eye level with your subjects. So that was just perfect. They would be at the eye level there, and I would photograph them. And I went to kind of research them a bit more, find out about them. And I saw that there was a research group in Penang that were doing, researching these. And it was right next to me. So I was figuring, I'll just reach out to them, and can I come with you guys in the field, and I'll photograph you guys, so you guys can, because they always need images, and I'll photograph some of the animals as well. So we kind of kept in touch, and this was at a time where I was traveling full time, and I was kind of trying to figure out, well, how am I going to make money from photography or just kind of traveling in general. So then I was pitching these kind of things to magazines and that, and after I started doing more YouTube and I started working with Tragopan, I moved a little bit away from just that particular project, but I've really enjoyed working with people like that. And it's helpful for them as well to get the content. So we've kind of been going back and forth a bit on that. They were actually featured in one of David Attenborough's shows after that, BBC
really?
Primates. So BBC Primates was that. So yeah, it's a great episode, and she's just a legend. She just does so much work down there with them, because these animals very often go down to the coast to feed on a specific fruit that they get down on the beach. But to get there, they often have to cross the road, and very often, as with wildlife, they come into contact with people. They get hit by cars. So they set up this project, and now they got basically old fire hoses that they build wildlife corridors over the roads. So brilliant work, and probably saved a lot of animals.
Sounds great. That sounds great.
Yeah. So that's the kind of stuff that I have been involved in a little bit, and I want to move more towards that.
Yeah, and then actually this one, Victor Skorban asked about. I think this answers the question where he was about you live from bird photography, and I think that kind of answered that you do a lot of other stuff too, which is normal way of photographers.
Exactly. Yeah, you can't really put all your eggs in one basket. You gotta spread them out. And I do, work with Tragopan, I work with different projects, and you kind of find ways here and there. Yeah.
And there was one question about which I don't know.
Tragopan hides.
It was this one. Yeah. Which Olympus lens do you guys find the most useful all-around lens when not doing wildlife? Well, I don't do wildlife, so that's not my. But do you do just for leisure photography, just when you're walking around and photographing totally something else?
I used to do a lot more. So when I went traveling, my girlfriend and I sold our house. Actually, this was back in 2017. And we had this idea, we're just going to kind of get out of the rat race and go travel. And we're going to try and figure out how to make money online as we travel. And at that point, I wasn't going back to how to make money from it. I didn't really know. I was trying to figure it out as I went. And I really had this idea that how to make money is to, more like the old school kind of photographer, more like pitching to magazines. And I was figuring that wildlife is actually a little bit too niche. And I kind of went in the way of just travel photography, and I would photograph a lot more. Yeah, I would do a lot more tourist destinations, a bit of street photography, a bit of landscape, a bit of everything. Yeah, but that was after I came back and I really kind of doubled down on wildlife. I almost do that all the time just to improve a lot faster, to just really narrow down a niche on that. But it's something that I'm opening up to again now to expand a bit more into other ways, definitely. But at the moment, no, maybe a landscape here and there or something like that, but nothing's not serious, no. But it's something I like to, especially with the Olympus. I do enjoy waterfalls and stuff like that, because you can do it without a tripod. You just kind of get the flow of the water, low shutter speeds without anything. And I would say the 12 to 100 is probably the best one I've I've used for that. Like I have the 1240 2.8, and I really like that, and I vlog with it as well, and it's really nice lens. But I don't think that has the good image stabilization as the 12 to 100 does. And the 12 to 100 is a bit of an all round as well. You can get the reach as well. So I'd probably say that one. Yeah.
Yeah, there's actually the 12 to 100 has a stabilizer inside the lens, so it works Sync IS, so it's a bit better than the 1240, which doesn't have it. And well, for me, I think I always think that I use a lot of prime lenses, but then when I go to the Lightroom catalog, I all of a sudden realize that I use the 12 to 40 quite a bit. Yep. So I would say that's my kind of like a go-to lens, actually, even though I always think that I use primes a lot more, but I don't, which is a bit surprising for myself here too, which is kind of funny that I don't know which lenses I'm using actually without checking from Lightroom catalog.
That's the way it goes.
Oh yeah, it does. It's a bit strange. Let's see, what else do we have? These questions. Oh yeah, this I think it was him. Meanwhile, we had 5 Tragopan heights because of your videos. Thanks. Talking to you, I guess.
I'm sure Jonathan, who owns Tragopan, will be very pleased to hear that. That's great, though. You must have a good selection to choose from. I'm very happy to be working. I'm very lucky to be working for them because it means that I get to try out everything they have. So I get to play around with a lot of these, and there are a lot of good ones. So I can see why you've gone for quite a few, because it's always good to have different for situations. Yeah.
Yeah, I need to check those online. I have no idea what they look like. I need to check those. Then there is Petros Gulas is asking. He's from Oslo, and I think you actually originated from Norway, if I understood correctly.
Yes.
Do you use Live ND? And if yes, what's the best way to take advantage of it? So do you use the Live ND?
I haven't tried it yet, no, but I'd like to. That's something I need to learn and use. Do you use it yourself?
No, not that much actually, because it's usually where you need Live ND or ND filter is video, and it doesn't work on video, so I don't use it that much. But of course, if you're walking around and taking, let's say, like water, you don't need to have the ND filter in front of the lens, which is always not the best possible option to have put extra lens on your lens or extra glass, because that will always make the image quality a bit less. Does it matter that much is a different thing, but still it's very convenient to do. But then it's only ND 5 stop ND, which in most cases might not be enough. But I think it's a good feature anyway. But for, let's say, like for wildlife, it's not really something that you would use probably.
I've seen some really cool stuff by Peter Bambuzek, who's he's an Olympus visionary as well, and I think he used that for a really great shot of I can't remember the bird, of I think a stork or something like that up on his nest, and he's captured that as lightning strikes. So I think that may have been that. Is that when you can see, you can see on the back of the screen when actually the image kind of comes in more and more? Or is that a different feature? Am I getting confused here?
No, I think, but it's actually Live ND is quite close to the technology is for Live Composite, which is where you add
Live Composite.
Kind of like stacks images and only add information if there is more light in that particular part of the image.
Right.
Yeah,
that's tough to learn.
Yeah, they're actually the technology is what I've heard is quite similar, but they work a bit of a different ways.
Okay.
And then this one is about astrophotography. Do you ever do that when you out there in waiting for the birds to arrive in the early mornings or late at night or whatever? Because that would probably be something just to stick a camera out in the tripod and do some straw trails or stuff.
You think so, huh? No, I haven't. I did when I traveled. I did a bit with that was a Canon though, and tripod and everything, getting a little bit of Milky Way shots and that. Yeah, but I haven't come around to giving it a shot. No.
I haven't done it either that much. I've tried it and gone out in the middle of the night to a nature reserve pretty close to Helsinki, and where it's really dark, And the only lights that you can actually see is from Estonia, Tallinn, which is 80 kilometers south of Helsinki. And that actually might ruin your shots, which you wouldn't believe that it's the light. But it's actually quite nice. And yes, you can print. And there is actually a really interesting way of getting the best out of, if you're doing astrophotography, is that measure the light with 3200 ISO and then pump up the ISO to 12 to 800. And then in post, bring back 2 stops down and you will get a lot cleaner image. I don't know why it works, but it only works when you do an astrophotography or somewhere where you're in dark. If there is a lot of light, it doesn't work the same way. I don't know why, but that's just an interesting way of making the exposure. There's a lot less noise because when you kind of like bringing the exposure down, it will hide the noise. It is there, but you won't see it. It's an interesting way of making the exposure. And then there is a question about the high-res handheld shot, which is also an interesting concept that where you can get, I think the handheld high-res shot is about 50 megapixels, and if you have a tripod, it's 80 megapixels. Have you ever tried that?
No, I've set it up as one of my presets now because it's something that I'd like to try. You know, once I have my shots in, and if I'm working with an animal that's sitting quite still, I'd like to try to get a high res shot. It's there ready to go, but I haven't used it yet. No.
Yeah, it's not for a moving subject, that's for sure. If you can't do it with, or you could technically do it if you can keep the bird in exactly the same spot when you're panning, but I don't think that I don't think it's possible, but in theory it would be possible.
I'm thinking more like if you have some animal like a heron or something like that, you know, they'll freeze kind of, like some birds will, deer will often freeze and stand quite still, so then taking high res. But yeah, anything moving and you forget about it.
Yeah, and there is one question about the Astro I need to answer, and he wants me to repeat it. Yeah. Measure the light with ISO 3200, for example, and then set that exposure and aperture in manual mode, and then turn up the ISO 2 stops, and then take the image. You will have a really washed out image, and then in post you can lower the exposure by 2 to 3 stops, and you will have a lot better image. And I don't know why it works, but it looks a lot better. And like I said, don't try it to any other subject, but only night sky and might work in a very dark city, really moody, and few lights in a city, in a street lights, and might work. But that I haven't tried. But hope that answers the question. And let's see. Yeah, Brock, I know you're welcome. Just go and try it. Yes. Let's see, what else do we have here? Questions. There's one question that earlier was about the EM1 Mark III it was this one. EM1 Mark III, can I do bird photography with that camera? Do you have the EM1 Mark III or
no, I don't. I would imagine you absolutely can. Sometimes I kind of wish I had that, because when you're walking around, sometimes when I go walking, I'll still use my EM1 Mark II because I use just a sling sometimes. I'll just have it kind of hanging on my side, and the EM1X can get a little bit bulky for that, and you definitely have to use the locking feature on the EM1X, because sometimes you take about 50 shots just walking down the road. But I've seen some great results with wildlife photographers using the Mark III. So
I think the biggest difference is, of course, the size, and then the EM1 Mark III doesn't have the bird AF or the bird AI, and that's probably the main. Otherwise, it's quite similar, and even for like portraits, the EM1 Mark III is better because it has better face priority mode than EM1X, which I don't understand why they don't add it to X, because there is enough power in the what's that, the processor.
Yeah.
So I don't understand why they haven't added that to their flagship camera, but maybe they want to differentiate those.
Do you think they'll come out with Bird AI for the Mark III, or do you think they're keeping it separate?
No, I think it's only for the M1X, and I think it needs to have two processors on board, and that's why I don't think they will do that. The Drupic 9 that's in the newest cameras is powerful enough, but the M1X has two processors, so that's why it's possible. That's what I've heard. So I won't, unless they, figure out how to do it with one processor. Maybe it is.
So you got David Ellis here with what is a good rule of thumb with a 300mm lens to capture without cropping too much? Try to set your height up. So it really depends on what you're trying to capture. I mean, the best thing to do is if you're setting up a hide and you have twigs that you're expecting birds to land on, then it just kind of depends on what type of image you like the most and how big you want your subject to be in the frame. Like if you look at a lot of my images, I sometimes go for this is the frame and the bird can be that size. I quite like to show the environment or something else as well in my images. So it's a really bit of an experimentation. But I think for just almost like a garden bird setup, I don't know if I rule of thumb, but maybe 3-4 meters. I can't quite remember because now I'm shooting with the 150 with the 1.4 so much. I can't even remember what my 300 is like right now. So it's best to just test it out.
Are you getting it back? Did you say that you're getting it back next week or?
Oh yeah, 1 week. Cannot wait.
Oh. You need to make a video where you kind of like really more precious.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And then there was about software. What is your workflow and what softwares do you need to use?
Okay. So right now I started using Photomechanic for culling my images, but I think Lightroom has just come out with an update that is making it a lot faster. But at least that I don't have to import all my images because sometimes I can take a lot of images. I can be easy on the trigger and I can take loads of images, and especially if you're playing around with Pro Capture. So using Photomechanic first has just helped me cull so many, and it's really quick. Then I go into Lightroom and I do some basic edits. I bring it into Photoshop, and from there I use Topaz Denoise and Topaz Sharpen if it needs it, and then back into Photoshop, and I kind of do the rest of the editing in Photoshop, like the what's it called, the targeted editing or so, like more in Photoshop. If I'm printing, I've been exporting afterwards, and I've been using Gigapixel by Topaz. But did you just do a comparison of Peter? Did you do a comparison of Topaz and Photoshop? What did you find?
Yeah, actually, Gigapixel is better than the super resolution because super resolution is only one. You can't do anything. You just press the button and it does its job. With Gigapixel, you can do all this kinds. It's a lot better. At least for now.
I was very impressed because I did a test shot of when I was setting up my print shop. There's a lot of work involved because you got I was harassing the print shop back and forth because I needed to know exactly what it's going to look like. I need to have the options, and so that is most kind of automatic in it. And they did a test shot after I'd done Gigapixel on one of my mountain hare images, and they just print like an A4 print of the most detailed area. Very impressive what you can get using that, and you can scale it up 2 or 3 times, and you get, I think, megapixels. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it goes. It's really good. So that if you print your images and you're using Micro Four Third, that's just get it because it's worth it.
Yeah, it is. I've tested. I've used it sometimes, and it is really good. And I hope Photoshop will make it better so that Topaz will need to improve a bit more. I think they actually, the Topaz has a lot of good software. Like you said, you use the denoise.
Denoise is essential.
I've used the denoise, and then I use the Gigapixel a bit, and I do have the Sharpen AI, but I haven't really used that so much. I tested it, but I couldn't find any. I didn't think that it was any better than what I can get with Lightroom and Photoshop. So
yeah, I can see that. I use it because I'm used to it now, but I use it in Photoshop because it does create sometimes some artifacts I don't like. And creating a layer for it, and I just I brush in where I want it to show.
Oh, okay.
So it's not as good as denoise. I almost trust 100%. Just fire it up and just seeing the noise disappear is just magic. But yeah, sharpen, I'm a little bit more careful of, and go in and be a bit picky.
Yeah, that's true. Have you tried the DxO Photolab 4 with the I think it's called Deep Prime, and I have found that it's even better than Topaz denoise.
Oh wow! Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, you should. They have a this 1 month. I think you can use it and fully working. I think you should try that and see if that is anything.
What did you call it?
It's DxO Photolab 4.
Okay.
And then it has this Deep Prime. It's a bit overwhelming looking software. It's not I don't think the what do you call the user interfaces in the
okay.
It has so many things you can do with it, but it's a good software, and it has profiles for almost every lens and body combination. So it can know what's wrong with the image when it looks at the EXIF, and it fixes it, and it makes a really great kind of like automatic things that. But I think it's worth a try.
Yeah, I'll look into that.
Yeah, let's see what we have. Yeah, someone is saying that DxO Photolab 4 is great. I agree that. Let's see, what else do we have? Your questions. That this is actually a heavy metal band. Project Backfire is saying it's amazing photos, especially the ones in the winter. What is the best way to capture the Nordic wildlife, excluding black metal artists lost in the forest? I know these guys. I just made a music video with them. So.
Oh, brilliant!
Yeah.
Black metal.
Yeah, it was actually they're playing death metal and trash metal, I think, or trash heavy, or whatever that is called. So it's not my type of music, but I know these guys, and it was fun to make that. Cool. But is there any because like the photograph that I had in the beginning when I was that was starting that you were laying in the snow. Do you have any special tips for photographing in winter? Of course, we're heading towards spring, which is a good thing. But are there any tips?
Get clothes to stay warm, because it is surprising how cold you can get lying in the snow. I have so much gear with me that day, like muck boots that have like 5mm neoprene in them, and thick socks in them, and I had like 3 pair of gloves, and the little warming things that they activate when you tear them. Yeah, staying warm is just is such an important thing, because you want to spend as much time once you get yourself in that position and you're out in the harshness of it, you want to be able to stay there as long as you can. So that's the number one tip there. And if you're in the snow, obviously overexposing a bit, I guess, is the main thing to be aware of. Yeah, and I saw from your website that you have the logo of the Wallet gloves that are actually Norwegian made, and I got those in last fall, and those are marvelous gloves. You can get the tip things and everything. Those are really made for photographers. What really helped me was the mittens on top. It's like a sleeping bag for your glove. Like putting them, there's an opening for them as well, but just putting them on and warming up. And I see. I haven't checked those. I have to say that those aren't the cheapest gloves you can get, but those are really good. No. So, yeah. And there was Tina Bergström, Misty. You said about the initial photo editing. What was the? So I use Photo Mechanic. So it's not part of the editing. It's part of the culling. So it creates a preview of the image really quickly. So you can just kind of flick through them very fast. I'll just write it down to the chat. It's Photo Mechanic, and it's you had a video about it. And the best thing about Photo Mechanic is that it is
so fast to go through images. And I know that a lot of sports photographers, let's say that they're photographing a soccer game and then a football game, and then in the halftime they just sending the first images to papers, and photo mechanic is one of the fastest for if you have a lot of photographs, then that's exactly the software to do that stuff.
I think as well, if you're a hobby photographer, then it's because it's not cheap for what it is. Well, it costs what it costs, but it can really speed up the process if you do go through a lot of photos.
It is, and you can tag and make keywords and everything, and then Lightroom can read those images or the EXIF data and you're all done. And for action photographers and wildlife, when you're using really, and of course, like wedding photographers, that's a really handy tool because it makes it so much faster. Because I love Lightroom, but the biggest problem is that it is a bit slow.
Yep, absolutely.
And let's see what we have here. We still have 100. This is very good. We've had over 100 people almost all the.
Oh, cool.
All the time. That's quite a lot. This is really nice.
Brilliant.
And then there was one question that I had about image editing. Do you do a lot of what do you call it, or at all the manipulation, which you don't take out anything from your images? If you have let's say that you have a small branch sticking out that bugs you, do you clone it out or not?
It really depends. Most of the time I leave as is, but if there is a small little twig in the background or something like that, very bright or annoying, I will remove that. But I won't go much further than that, to say it like that. I do like to keep the what it was like in my images most as possible.
That's usually what it is about landscapes and wildlife photography. But of course, if you consider it to be more artistic way, then it's probably doesn't matter if you want to go. I don't
have anything against it. I think it's just totally a personal choice, and it's just what you're happy with. I don't know exactly. I can't put a finger on exactly when it seems too much to me, but I can see right away, just like if I have to do a lot of work to remove something, partly because I'm not that good at removing something and making it look nice, and partly because I just feel like it's not the same. It's not the same image. But I totally understand if people want to do it, and I think as long as you're kind of upfront about it, it's fine. Like you say, if you do it for artwork or something like that, you do go wild.
Yeah, that's true. But of course, if you're entering wildlife or nature photography competitions, then they have pretty strict rules about image editing. And then that's of course it's a different thing.
Yeah.
And then there is when we're talking about software, about Adobe Bridge, which is a lot faster. But I haven't really used that. I don't know actually why. I've never really used Adobe Bridge that much.
No, I never got into it either.
Yeah, I don't know actually why not. I haven't.
Some people mentioned in the video I did that they use Adobe Bridge for that.
Okay.
I thought I had tried it and it wasn't as fast as that, but maybe they sped up as well. So maybe that could be a good choice for going through the first.
Especially if you already have the package of Adobe's software, then it's worth a try. You don't have to buy anything extra. So that's of course worth a try then. Then there is one interesting question from Leon Lewis. Espen, what animal have you not photographed but wish you could?
There's too many. There's way too many. Oh man, that's a good question. Tough question. I really like the animals in a bit harsh environments. Like I'd love to photograph something like polar bears, and also on the other side photographing like a penguin colony or something like that. It just seems amazing. No, that's too much. I'll just keep going on and on if I keep going. Definitely some birds of paradise as well, and there's
there are quite a few animals to be photographed. There's one usually at least here in Finland that a lot of people say that wolverine is one that they want because it's really hard to photograph. You don't really see them at all.
I bet. Yeah, I'd love to photograph them.
Yeah, And now that know that some people use even remote cameras, that they know where they are and they just put the remote camera to fire away. And how do you feel about that? Who made the photograph? Is there any?
Oh, I think it's definitely like the person who does the work and the work to set it up and has the vision to actually see that photograph before it happens. I think it takes incredible skill to do that. So I really respect the people who can do that.
Because there is the most important thing. The person who puts the camera there knows where that animal is going to go. I wouldn't have no clue. I could put the cameras in the woods and have, no clue what's going on. And I think that is really.
Or you don't think about like all the other elements in the scene. You're just getting that animal. It's a lot to think about.
And then we had in the beginning, somebody was asking about the workshops, and here you have the.
It sounds good. Yeah.
Sounds like a North Pole photo workshop with polar bears and penguins.
I have to bring some penguins up to the North Pole. Yeah, you get them both the same.
I don't think they have them. I think they have them in the south.
Yeah.
How do you? How would you give advice if someone wants to get into wildlife photography? What are the most important things to consider if someone wants to start and try it out?
I think like what we talked about before, like learning a bit more about the behavior and the ecology. So through books, joining, there's a lot of nature societies and clubs that will take you out, and there's bird clubs that will, talk about the best places to go. So go to these kind of lectures, working from other people, like David was saying there as well, with workshops, a great way to learn. But then mostly just as much time as you can spend in the field is really, you're just gonna improve so much more. The more time you can spend outside, and that's the way you learn as well. And taking it as a learning experience, it's not all going to come right away. It does take time and patience. Have patience. Yeah. Too many tips there, maybe, but yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly. And I would say that like workshops, and if you have some place where you can rent a hide with some experienced bird photographer or wildlife photographer, that helps, because that's what I did when my first bird photography session was with Jari Peltomäki in the northern part of Finland about a year ago, just before the bad things happened with the virus and everything, and that was really helpful. I didn't have a clue what to do. Of course, I knew the composition, the basics of photography, of course, but I didn't know anything about the animals or the birds, and it was. But he was right next to me and giving me tips, and when I saw what he was doing, then I was just copying it, and I think I got a couple of pretty good ones.
Definitely, I've seen them.
It is something to really practice, and you won't be a great wildlife photographer overnight. It takes many years to master, and that's usually. But I think that the best thing you said is that to practice and photograph and spend as much time in the field and out there to do, and also it doesn't have to be, you don't have to go to photograph lions or stuff like that in a big. There are a lot of animals in cities, so.
Cities, photograph what's on your doorstep. What you can have easy access to is what you're going to go photograph again and again. There's an interesting study, actually. I remember reading this in a book. I can't quite remember which one, but a professor at the beginning of the year for a photography class, he divided the class in two, and he said, I'm going to grade your guys' work on the quality of, you only produce one image, but it's got to be like top notch. It's got to be the best. And the other half, he said, I'm going to grade you guys on quantity, and, just produce images after images after image. And, it doesn't matter so much that everything is the top notch. And at the end of the semester, like the quantity guys, the people that, were just going out there experimenting, taking image after image and improving and learning that way, we're just coming out miles ahead, because the other guys, they're kind of stuck in their heads, like thinking about getting everything right, but not actually going out and trying it and doing it. So
like we were talking earlier, that also the process of photographing is at least for me the big thing too. It's not always about the great image. It's about being out there and making images and looking around and exploring and seeing things. And sometimes you come up with great images and sometimes not. And, you don't have to show those images that are not good. You
exactly,
just show the best ones, and that what matters actually.
Yeah.
Of course, sometimes it's hard to decide which are the best ones, but you'll learn that too if you practice and see the response from others.
Yeah, looking at a lot of photography books as well. It's not always Instagram that's the best thing to see what's the best photo is. Get some wildlife photography competition books. There's some amazing work out there. Sometimes Instagram can get a little bit, everybody gets stuck into their same way, and people go for likes over actually the quality of the photo. And I think a lot of people have figured out what gets the many likes. And
yes, it's not actually that hard. Hard to figure out which photographs gets the. Oh, then there is this comment from Tina that I have learned that I lack patience. Yeah, that's probably one thing too. And I
think it comes with time. Yeah, I mean, me too. And it is like a muscle. The more you get out there and do it, the more you push yourself to do it. I really like to have this little 5-minute rule. Like once I think that I've had enough, like just push myself an extra 5 minutes. And that way you're always going a little bit extra. And sometimes that's when something happens. So
yeah. It's the same thing with these live streams. I look at the time. Let's do 5 more minutes. It's about the same thing. But yeah, that's probably a good way of kind of like adding or being more patient is to push yourself to 5 more minutes.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good one. And all of a sudden you've been there 5 minutes, then 5 more, and you might start getting those images, because it's, at least for me, when I go out and shoot, very seldom do I get the best images right in the start. It's kind of like a process every time, which is a lot of fun. But of course, if you're on an assignment, then it's a different thing. You just have to deliver in the time frame you have. But when you're photographing for yourself and you don't have the same time limits, then just go ahead.
Yeah, you don't always see the best images right away. That comes with many half-failed images or half-good images.
Oh yeah, and it's usually the way I do is that I just start making images of anything. There's something on the ground, there's garbage there, I take images, and all of a sudden it's just the flow starts going on. And probably the same thing with birds or any other subject.
Absolutely.
Let's see. Let's see, do we have any other questions?
I got one on which hide is my favorite.
Oh yeah, that was
Stefan.
Yes, so that it was.
I mean, there's for each one situation. It's a different hide for each situation, really. I see the one I reach for most often is probably the hockey ground hide. I really like it because it's so low in the environment, so it's very easy to fly under the radar. Other people don't even see it that often. The only thing about it is it can get a little bit uncomfortable because you are lying down the whole time. You can move a little bit, but you can't sit up in or anything like that. So you can get an uncomfortable hide, but you get an amazing viewpoint, straight ground level, so it can work for a lot of different species. But the V6 is an adaptable one. So for the people who don't know, it's like a dome-shaped hide, but you can get an additional room for it in the back so that you could camp in it, or you can lie down on it and stuff. So it's very adaptable. It's hard to pick my favorite, but I think the hockey hide would be my favorite.
All right. And what about you said, I think it was before we started, that you have a car or camper van, or what do you call those, that you can actually sleep in? Did I understand correctly?
Yeah.
Have you used it big?
Not much.
Or is the lockdown so bad so you can't use it yet?
Yeah, we bought it end of last summer. So we got it out a couple of times, kind of in between lockdowns, and but we've had it kind of in for taking care of a bit of rust and stuff like that, and trying to hook up the leisure battery to it's a whole thing I don't really understand, but it's on a solar panel now, but obviously that'll get drained. So there's a few more things that we could do, but I'm really looking forward to once that lockdown kind of
Oh yeah.
Eases a little bit, and we can use that. And I'm looking forward to try and go for some coastal and seabird colonies, because we've got some really nice seabird colonies here. And because you've done the Northeast 500, haven't you, Peter?
Yeah, I have. Yes.
Don't know if you came across any of the seabird colonies then, or is that not really on your radar?
No, not that much. No.
There's some good stuff. I can highly recommend photographing at those, because it takes away the problem of getting close to the animal, because very often you're up on a cliff and they're sitting quite close. It's very easy to photograph, so you can focus a bit more on the other things about photography, like your settings in the background, things like that. So because that is often one of the problems, is finding the animals and getting close. So if you take that out of the equation, it can really help, and they're fun to photograph. They're just a little bit smelly. That's all.
Okay, but otherwise it's fun. But talking about the camper vans, have you watched Thomas Heaton's videos when he's building his?
I've seen some of them. Yeah,
that's
pretty interesting.
Watching one of his videos where I think he was assembling some lights into his van, some LED strip lights and stuff like that, and I actually like his channel, even though it's not my genre what he's doing, but still I think he's a nice guy.
Very good. I remember that was one of the first channels I watched on YouTube for photography. I really inspiring channel. It seems like a really good guy. I was shocked at what the mileage that band did, though. It was pretty. It was I don't know what it was, but it was pretty. It was shocking.
Oh yeah, and then when you have it ready, remember to do some videos on your trips, and then use the hashtag van life, because that's the thing in YouTube.
Exploding, yeah. Definitely.
Hope so. And let's see, what do we have? Some more questions. We still have a bit more time. Okay, then this is an interesting question from Rikto Skorban. Looking on your Instagram photo, and based on my taste, all photos are from good to great. Question: do you have a bad photo?
Loads, yeah. If I open my Lightroom now, you see tons of them.
But
like you said, don't show them.
Yeah, exactly. You know what the good ones are, and you only show those. And I think that's the secret of most photographers.
It is the secret, but then also your taste changes, and as you evolve and get better, like I look back at my Instagram now and I can pick out loads of images that I don't like anymore. I thought they were great at the time, and now I should have done that differently.
Yeah, but I think that's a good thing. I would be worried if you would think that, hey, I used to take a really good image. I think it's better
I'm
this
the best.
way. Yeah, this is the best, because if you look at 5 years to the future, if you think of your images now, then you probably think that you don't like them anymore, but you have better ones from let's say in 5 years or 2 years or whatever. And I think that's better that way, because but of course we have to remember that we all have times that we seem to kind of like maybe not go backwards, but kind of like not involving. We're doing the same thing, and then there might be some, not bad images, but you're not getting better. It can take a year or two but that would just have to go on.
Absolutely, yeah. I think sometimes it's experiment something, and you may go down a road and it's not actually quite the right thing, and sometimes you just think that it's good or bad. I think the first time I saw the photo I posted today, I was like, I'm not really sure about this, and now looking at it afterwards, somehow I just I really like this. Taste changes all the time.
Yeah, but have you ever had the thing that you go back to your images and see something that you have missed like 2 years ago? That, hey, why did I miss this? This is a great photograph. Why didn't I do anything with this?
Yeah.
That ever happened to you?
Yeah, that's definitely happened. That's like the one like last year. I was like, now I look at it with fresh eyes, and I was like, I really like this, because it's. This particular image is a bird that's kind of positioned, usually you want to leave empty space in front and stuff, but this one here was coming, positioned kind of, wrong, but obviously you want to break the rules every now and then, but it had more of a feel to it, and I just kind of, but I didn't see it at the time, and I was like, damn.
Yeah, that's also good. Yeah, that's also very good. Let's see, do we have any more questions? I scroll a little bit backwards if I missed something.
My head hurts all the time when I'm in a ground hide. Yeah, not usually in the beginning. I'm pretty good, but then after a while, like your neck kind of starts getting sore. So definitely.
This
Same
one
thing
you're
now. I'm
talking
out.
about.
Yeah. Sorry. I'm out photographing brown hairs quite a bit now. I found a field, so hopefully I'm going back tomorrow and the next day as well. It'll be the same thing. I'm just lying down in a field and I'm looking up like this. Your neck goes, sore. Definitely. I'm trying to do a bit more exercise kind of stuff for that, and
Oh yeah, that's
limber.
something that needs to be done, stretching and stuff like that, so they don't get. And what about weather? What is your favorite weather to photograph?
I'd say snow is probably my favorite.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's just you just get a magical feeling from it. So yeah, it's it's harsher and it's harder, but it can get tougher and stuff. But yeah, I do like the look of those kind of images. Yeah,
and most likely early morning and later at night.
Oh yeah.
Because the better light, because usually middays are, especially if it's sunny, it's no good.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, that's one thing. The biggest changes when I first started is I would probably always go out at like midday or something, and just like, this is probably fine. This is when I this is when I want to go photographs, and I'll go. But as you learn and progress, then all of a sudden you change and you only go out for those good times. I don't think there's anything wrong about going the other times either, and learning and practicing techniques and that. But to take the good images, yeah, you need the light on your side.
Yeah, definitely. And then there is an interesting question from Matthias. Do you allure animals with their noises? There are very interesting whistles which imitate the sounds of birds, deer. Do you have
No, I've not really tried that. No. I think for birds and stuff, a lot of people use playback because you can play the songs of birds. And yes, I have done it on occasion, but I'm not. I don't like it. I don't think I'll do that again. I think it's something that you do have to be very careful of if you care about the welfare of the animals as well, because they can get affected by it. And if we're doing it with birds, if you do it, then I would say try and do it sparingly, and never in breeding season, or when they're on migration or anything like that, because things like that really add up. Because you play that song to them, they think it's a territorial dispute, or they think it's
I see, yeah,
so they expended a lot of energy on it when they should actually be doing other stuff. So I try not to do it, but as I said, I have done it in the past. I think
I see.
Yeah, we need to be a little bit careful.
That kind of disturbs the normal flow of their lives with
and if more and more people do it, it can have a lot of stress on the animals.
That's true. And then there's actually one interesting question that I'm almost missed. That have you ever had some scary encounters with wildlife while hiding in a hide?
Photographing red deer last year was a bit scary. I do have a video on that, and it was quite close. It was on an estate up here in Scotland where I lived last, and usually they don't like you going around photographing those kind of estates because it's a shooting estate, so they have clients there and shoot. So I was emailing them and please can I come? I'll share some images with you guys. And finally I got to talk to the keeper there, and he took me out. He was a really nice guy, and I just kind of talked about, I want to set up my hide here, and obviously, I don't want to disturb the deer. I'm going to come here at nighttime. I'm going to go in the hide and, not really cause any issues. So he was totally fine with it once I figured out where I was going to be. But I did ask him, what if a deer comes up to me, because they're all testosterone and ready to go, So, well, I'm sure you'll be fine. Just kind of go out and wave your hands and stuff. And I'm like, all right. So I was kind of getting ready. I have my tripod here. I'm going to, just defend myself. But it didn't come to that. But it did come really close and just, let off some belting noise as it just kind of walked right by. But they were so in the moment of what they were doing, so they didn't mind me at all. Right. So that was, it wasn't very scary, but I was sitting at the edge of my chair. Yeah.
Sounds scary to me anyways. And let's see. And then there was Ruth who's saying, "Thank you for your great insights and thoughts. Much appreciated. I am following you anyhow already on YouTube." Well, that's good. That's great. That's a good thing. I think if any of you who are here listening and watching and haven't checked out Espen's channel or have not subscribed after this, you should. There's a lot of good stuff.
Thank you, Ruth.
There's a lot of good stuff about wildlife and using Olympus cameras. And you promised me 2 hours, and we almost done that 2 hours. And usually my streams last about 2 hours, and there aren't that many questions anymore. But if there are, we'll still have a couple of minutes more before we go. And if you come up with anything, any advice, anything, just tell us. Cool. if something that I missed or haven't asked or nobody has asked, but you wanna.
I'll try and have a think. Yeah.
There is some hope if this pandemic is over, you will do an Olympus hide workshop. Says Gubber from Aberdeen. So.
Aberdeen. I was living very close to there last. I think that would be a great thing to do. So we'll see once this thing settles down and get something set up. Yeah, thanks for that.
Yeah, we're actually talking earlier about, somebody asked about workshops, and I think Espen has said that he has a plan to do, but the pandemic kind of got into the way, so it's been postponed so far. But let's hope that you can do that. Yeah.
Do you do workshops yourself?
I have done, yes, not in a couple of years, but I have, yes. I have, and also what I do now is online teaching for people that are photographing as part of their job. They're not photographers, but they're like PR agencies and stuff like that, where they need to use cameras, and I have lectures for those.
Okay,
which is quite good, because of course the pandemic had made the calendar a bit emptier than it used to be. So that's some good stuff. And then let's take the last question from Cecile. What is your favorite country or place to photograph?
Ooh, again, this is like the favorite animal or something like that. I don't know. There's so many places I haven't been to photograph yet.
But let's say that places you have been, where would you go back, or is it just open your front door and start photographing?
I mean, right now it is. I live in a really nice place. So I do actually just open my front door and go photograph. Yeah, I got red squirrels coming to my garden, so I'm very lucky right now. Favorite country? I'd like to go back to. I mentioned that I went traveling. I lived in Penang, Malaysia, and I'd like to go back there because the biodiversity hotspots. You get orangutans. Just some amazing species that sadly are in decline, and who knows how much longer we have them. So that's something I definitely want to go back and spend more time photographing and just experiencing it. Yeah.
All right. I think this wraps up our almost 2-hour live stream, and very much thank you, Espen, for being my guest. This has been a very nice conversation. We've had over 100 people all the time here listening and asking questions, and a lot of questions about photography itself and not that much about the gear, which I always like.
Yeah.
And we probably...
Thank you for having me. It's been really fun, and thanks to everybody asking the questions and stuff. I was a little bit nervous to come on because I'd never done a live before, but you guys made me feel right at home, and you too, Peter. So thank you very much for that.
Yep, glad to have you. And but to wrap up, this is thanks for watching, and bye for now.